My grandmother has traced our family tree back to its trunk. She is excited. We are many and far apart, but soon we will know how to return home. She lowers her tired bones onto her dinette chair delicately. She has found him. She has discovered the man from which my family has sprung. She has seen his pen scrawled on yellowing pages. She knows him. And finally, I would know him too. When her thin lips part, I expect to see his nappy hair, his large black hands twirling in the fields. I expect to wipe the sweat from his brow and sing to his infant child. I expect to feel the grooves on his back, to see the earth beneath his fingernails, to hear the pining in his songs. But these are not the truths she tells. Instead, I see a bed covered in white lace and adorned cotton linens. It is stained crimson. I see her, shaking. There is anger in her eyes, helplessness in her legs, silence on her lips, and death in her soul. He does not have worker's hands. He does not have nappy hair. His brow was cool. His back had borne no burden. I know him. And his pen was smooth and learned. A frigid breeze filters through my screened kitchen window. My hands grip the wooden table, still covered with a thin layer of country kitchen syrup. I wonder why that never seems to come off, even when we scrub with lemon-scented pine sol. I look at my skin. It's still brown as I remembered. It doesn't scrub off in the shower. My mom continues explaining how the branches crook and splinter to create me, the chestnut-colored flower they decided to name Amania. My name is Hebrew for faith. Most people think it's African, but the traditional African spelling is Imani. Most people call me Imani by mistake anyway. Her words mesh together. I can only make out one startling sentence. The patriarch of our family is Scottish. The memories burst through the gates of my sanity. My mom says I'm not paying her no attention. I remember that day in 4th grade when Miss Josephine played her favorite documentary for Black History Month. When the images poured across the screen, they felt so familiar. When they smiled, I smiled with them. When they lamented, I wept for them. I imagined myself comforting them and lifting them up with whispers of encouragement. I wiled them on, assuring them of impending victory. All the other kids squirmed in their seats. They diverted their attention to the chalk residue permanently staining the green blackboard. They adjusted their stockings. My very best friend, Alexandra, reached over and touched my shoulder gingerly. She whispered, "I'm so sorry." I didn't respond. It was 2004. I was attending a Christian school. There were a total of 3 black kids in the expected class of 2012. When Alexandra refocused on the screen, I looked at her. We'd had sleepovers. I braided her hair on the playground. Her hair blazed, wild and untamed like a California forest fire. I turned my attention back to the movie. I did not whisper, smile, or weep. Instead, I wondered why they decided to make it black and white. I remember my first crush, Charlie Eleutheria. I had just learned to write, and my daddy bought me a faux diary for Valentine's Day. In it, I kept juicy secrets like Molly didn't actually go to sleep during nap time, and Jasmine's hair actually came from a horse. But the juiciest secret of them all was Charlie Eleutheria. I kept my diary hidden, but it simply could not keep any of my secrets from my crying mother. The words would not keep quiet. She picked me up that day and asked me to point out Charlie. I waved to him, and he smiled at me. His smile was missing a few parts. It still kind of made me fuzzy inside. She expressed her approval in a few words. "He has good hair." She returned the pages that betrayed me. Later that night, my father came in my room. He sat on the edge of my bed with his hands folded nervously in his lap. I expected him to tell me I wasn't allowed to like boys yet. He did not. The conversation went as follows. "So, I heard you have your first crush." "Yes, Daddy." "I also heard that he's white." "Yes, Daddy." "Oh, there aren't any black boys in your class?" "Yes, Daddy, there are." "Why don't you like any of them?" "I don't know, Daddy." "Do I have to?" He then left to discuss the situation with my mother. they decided that taking away my diary privileges would solve this problem. I remember my first Black Student Union meeting in Mr. Bradford's room. Daryl scrawled on the board in green expo marker the topic for today. The topic never really mattered much. Regardless of how the discussion started, it ended with us complaining about being Black, while simultaneously voicing our undying pride for the triumphs of our forefathers. I had a bit of a rough time fitting in at my new school. I just discovered that the only friend I had talked about me constantly. Black Student Union was precisely what I thought I needed. Daryl made eye contact and smiled. It was my turn to speak. I told him how I was born in Chester, Pennsylvania, and still go to church there on Sundays. I told him how the kids at church didn't really talk to me, how they made fun of me for speaking properly, and that nobody believes my hair is real, and that when they finally do, I'm chastised for getting a perm, and that I didn't feel welcome or accepted in the Black community, and that it bothered me that light-skinned Black people thought they were better than dark-skinned Black people, and that what really upset me most was that I couldn't even take refuge in one of these groups because I was neither light-skinned nor dark-skinned. When I was done, Daryl's smile was different. It was twisted so that it was almost hidden, guilty. I looked around, and some had played a better game of hide-and-seek than others. But I got the point. Mom rises from her chair in frustration to tend to the mail. She doesn't understand why I'm not excited to discover where we come from. She doesn't understand why I'm not enthusiastic to find out that I'm actually Portuguese, Spanish, Scottish, Italian, Nigerian, Cherokee, Sioux, Blackfoot, Redfoot. Our family owned 100 acres of cotton fields in Georgia, and they worked in it themselves. Our family had pride and dignity. Maybe they marched that day when Martin Luther King Jr. delivered his famous speech. Maybe they became stops on the Underground Railroad. Maybe they ate at a whites-only counter or refused to ride the buses during the Montgomery bus boycott. Maybe.